Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Beauty Birds podcast, where we talk all things makeup, skincare, influencers, industry, and everything in between. We is Tara, the brains and the beauty behind Simply Terrible on Instagram, and you can find me there too at Becca and Eggs for all things lunch, lipstick, and library books.
And I am in Pittsburgh, Becca is in Austin, but despite our 1,500-mile separation and being complete skin opposites in the beauty world, we are the go-tos for pretty much everyone we know, whether it is makeup, skincare, who screwed up what, and is that product you got actually safe to put on your face?
Speaking of putting things on your face, I saw a video a few weeks ago from Fleur de Force retrying all the makeup products she talked about in favorites videos from 10 years ago when she first started YouTube. And it got me thinking about what makeup I used to wear way before it became an all-consuming hobby.
Well, isn't that a clever segue into today's episode? We will be talking about how we fell in love with makeup and the beauty community as a whole, comparing what things we use then and now.
So when did you really get into makeup?
Right, 2014. It was the tail end of my college career. I remember, I don't know what actually sparked it, but I just randomly decided makeup is my thing now. My roommates had done it all through college. I remember one of my roommates had a train case, and I was just like, well, that seems a little much. But now I have a train case more than. But yeah, I remember going to a MAC counter with my mom and got two lipsticks. I got MAC Twig, which is still my favorite, and MAC Heroin. It is. I feel like I still can't dupe it to this day. I started doing my eyebrows, which I don't even remember what products I used. I just know it was not good. Well, I thought it was great, but looking back, it was a lot. And then I bought the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette, which was labeled for what shade goes where.
Oh, I remember those.
And looking back, totally not right, because there's no rules, but there's rules. The crease shade was a shimmer, and I would just slap that on my crease with a little brush that came in it, which was that little plastic applicator.
I didn't know how to sponge tip guy.
Sponge tip applicators. I didn't know how to clean those. I thought that was just you use them till they died. And I would always remember thinking wow, I use this with brown. How am I supposed to use my other shades? So that was my segue into makeup. It didn't become a full-blown hobby until later that year, though, where I started a Reddit deep dive. What about you?
I actually also got started in 2014. It was only maybe 6 months after we moved to Oregon. So I was already 25, old hag in makeup. But we were going to be traveling for a wedding, and I hadn't seen any of my family people for a while. So I got in my head that I wanted to be able to do my makeup the right way. And I also fell down a wild Reddit rabbit hole.
Man, right?
I had been using makeup in junior high and high school, but super basic stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'd only recently started using concealer, and I just, the spending started. That was summer 2014. I think the first couple things I bought were a Revlon face primer, which is great because I was not using liquid foundation. So I did not need a face primer. And a lot of e.l.f. products back then too.
Yeah, a whole lot of e.l.f. products. When did it become a full-blown hobby for you?
That was definitely the beginning, that wedding. And then I think I had stayed on Reddit and started watching YouTube. So end of 2014, I started buying more products. And then 2015, things really took off. I think that's when ColourPop launched.
Really?
Was that 2015? So that was everything was affordable and I could just buy all the things. I remember getting the Too Faced chocolate bar palette, which was probably summer 2015, which in retrospect didn't suit me at all. And I hated it and I never used it, but it was such a big deal. That purchase was such a big deal. And then we were traveling back east for another wedding the following, so late 2015. And I remember going into Sephora in Philly and buying Kat Von D Studded Kiss lipstick in Noble, which does not suit my skin tone at all. And one of the OG green pencil eyeliners from Urban Decay. I believe the color was called Freak. And that's when I started realizing I can do bright colors. This can be fun. I don't have to, do my makeup the way my mom does her makeup.
That's bold. I feel like I didn't get into color until a couple of years after starting makeup. I dove right in with neutrals.
When did it go full-blown hobby for you?
Same time, which is crazy. End of 2014. So I graduated college. Devin and I were living together in Long Branch, and I was working full time and finally had money. So I actually did like a Reddit deep dive. I would do it at work. I didn't have like the craziest schedule. I remember just like refreshing the page. You'd be like, what else can I learn? I definitely bought a lot more products, researched a lot of things. I started chasing dupes. The first thing that happened when I got into makeup in like the community was the Lime Crime scandal, where Venus launched. The credit cards got hacked and everyone started to unravel Doe Deer's past. And I remember thinking, wow, I really want the Venus palette, but I can't buy that. Nobody wants to buy it. Why would I buy it? That's a terrible idea. I fell down like the biggest rabbit hole looking for dupes of like reds, oranges, like any kind of grungy red color. I bought so many different knockoff palettes, like one from NYX, one from e.l.f., just all over the place with that, trying to dupe it when I didn't really even know what I was doing. But I remember I used to die over like every MAC collab that came out. And just like every Urban Decay release was something special. And it's just been like, I don't know, since then, that's not really the case, but it took a long time to get here.
So do you remember some of the first purchases you made? Like first Sephora buys, maybe Ulta? What were you buying back then?
Yeah, so first purchases were definitely the MAC lipsticks and like a couple of cheap drugstore products. But I remember my first like Sephora purchase was I asked for it for Christmas. I got in way over my head with like what I wanted for Christmas. They were way above my skill set. But you know those like big box collections that Sephora did every year, where it was just like a clunky like 99 pan, but like different shapes makeup, where like that, and it was like one of those big boxes. So it had every single color, like brights on one side, neutrals on the other. You flipped to the next thing, and it was like eyeliners. It was one of those, and it wasn't even that great. I just remember getting it and being like, now I have everything.
I think I had one of those.
It wasn't good.
A cousin that didn't want it anymore gave it to me or something. Yeah.
I don't even think they do them anymore. I also needed to get Lolita from Kat Von D. Like if I didn't, I thought my head was going to explode. I signed up for the email waiting list for it to come back in stock. And like the minute I got the email, I remember I was shopping in BJ's and was like, it's back in stock. I have to buy this.
That was like beginning of liquid lipstick craze too then, right?
It definitely was.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I recently scrolled all the way back to my like first Sephora purchases online. And the very first thing it said it was September 2014 and my entire order was Kat Von D. Oh, how far we have come since then.
Oh, how far we have come. However, KVD VB.
Yeah, now it's KVD Vegan Beauty, and we can talk about it again. That's going to be a whole episode in and of itself at a later date, though.
Well, anyway, what was your makeup like before your makeup hobby?
Oh man, super basic. I think I started buying stuff because I had acne in junior high because I didn't have a skincare routine then. And getting ready for my bat mitzvah party, a cousin put, I had like a pencil eyeliner and she put it in my waterline, and I had never done that before. And I think that like a light bulb clicked and I was like, I'm the coolest person ever. Courtesy of mom, I basically only wore a powder foundation, which I used to wear a Shiseido one, which is crazy because I would never buy that for myself now because they're so expensive. And then eventually I switched to MAC powder foundation. So it was MAC, the Studio Fix pressed powder in NW20, Jordana. If you remember that drugstore brand, they were like $1.99 for the pencil liners, maybe $2.99.
Yes.
That in my waterline, and then the Maybelline Define a Lash mascara, which I used religiously until like well into makeup being my hobby. I bought stuff all the time. MAC was so crazy, like one $14 eyeshadow that you would occasionally, like, oh God, money is a gift, but I didn't know how to use any of it. I didn't know people owned more than one brush. I didn't know you were supposed to wash your brushes.
Definitely didn't know you were supposed to wash your brushes.
What were you doing pre-end of college, pre-hobby?
Mom's hand-me-downs. My mom actually used to work for a Clinique, so she got a lot of like free stuff from them. And she was like, obviously that was her favorite brand. So she would go get her mascara, which she still uses to this day, like the Clinique, I don't even know what it's called, the black mascara, and just get one of those like gift bags with purchase. And she'd be like, oh, I already have the stuff. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah. So I would use that. Didn't really know what to do with any of it. I hardly ever wore eyeshadow. I bought a lot of Victoria's Secret makeup. If you remember, they used to sell like eyeshadow duos.
Really? I don't
Yeah.
really remember.
Oh my God. I used to buy their eyeshadows. And to tell you how little I knew about makeup, I thought a smoky eye was like packing black onto this side of your eye, like right here, and then silver over here. So I would do that with their duos.
So black on the outer half and then silver the whole just like front half of your lid.
Yeah, and just like blend it together. And I was like, ta-da, smoky eye. Even before then, though, I remember in like middle school-ish, I wasn't really supposed to wear makeup, but I would every once in a while just go rogue and buy like a blue lipstick and I'd put it on the bus and be like, I'm the coolest person in the world. And then I'd take it off before I came home.
I remember I had a really bright blue MAC eyeshadow, like in the classic black packaging. I had one, like probably what would have been considered like a fluffy tapered brush now, one brush that my mom got in like an Estee Lauder gift with purchase. And I was like, I don't understand. Why don't I look like the models in the magazines with my one brush and one eyeshadow color?
I'm using my brush. What's going wrong?
Yeah.
You know, I fully did not understand brushes. I exclusively used sponge tip applicators that came with products. And if they didn't come with one, honestly, I would just use my hand and be like, well, I guess there's no solution for this.
I feel like I use my hand so much more now than I did then.
What kind of products do you gravitate towards now then?
I feel like I still love the bright colors, but I definitely have a better understanding of like my own personal style I don't want to say that I'm old, but as I've matured, I've gotten more confident. And also like, I understand my skin type and I understand what color my skin is and like undertones. I think before, like with the Too Faced chocolate bar, I would definitely go for like, this is so cool and everybody wants it. And now I'm a lot more like, I'm just going to stick with my neon colors that I like, even though they're only trendy for like 3 weeks in the spring every year. I kind of keep an eye on the trends and see if anything interesting is going on, but I don't feel compelled to buy stuff like I did. I'm way more, I like bright colors, I keep my skin pretty minimal, and understanding your undertones is definitely a good thing to have in your arsenal.
A good thing to have, but God, does it take forever to get to.
Have your makeup purchases, products changed much since end of college?
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything that I used then that I still use now. I would say everything changed. I also used to do like the must-haves. I'd watch favorites videos and be like, oh my God, Kathleen Light says that. I have to go get that. I used to pack on a lot of concealer and foundation. I also now wear usually neither. Maybe just a little bit of concealer every once in a while when I get like a little red. I treated MAC, the website, like MAC Cosmetics, as my Google for makeup. I'd be like, well, I heard this is, something that exists. Let me see if MAC has it. And like, if they didn't have it, I'd be like, I guess it doesn't exist. I can't have it.
They were like the brand for years.
Right? Them, Urban Decay, like everyone that we started with, I feel like it's just gone. Not gone, but like they didn't keep up correctly.
Yeah. I would either get stuff at MAC or like at a department store with my mom. That was it until 2014, basically.
Right? But yeah, back then it was powder everything, high coverage. And powder now everything. It's mainly powder everything. Yeah. Well, powder blush, powder bronzer, but now I use cream blush, cream bronzer. Even cream shadows are my favorite. Liquid shadows are definitely my favorite now. I would have never. A gloss is now like something that I use, which is again, like I still love a good matte liquid lipstick, but I never in my right mind would I have picked up a gloss 6 years ago. Yeah,
the glosses are really coming back.
I know. I hate to say I'm like in the trend, but like I feel it. Also, my style is a lot more editorial when it comes to makeup. Back then it was like the Kim Kardashian, smoky eye kind of look, but like I'll throw on pastels now and call it a day.
We're both wearing pastels today, actually.
We are.
We obviously spend a lot of our time and money on makeup, beauty, skincare, whatever. What were you spending your time and money on before this hobby? Did it replace another hobby? Were you like me and just had nothing going on, really?
Yeah, honestly, when we were like writing the initial questions for this, once I wrote this, I was like, what did I do? I was in college. I did nothing. I studied, I partied. I was an art major. So like art has always been one of my hobbies. I used to do watercolor painting, fine art drawings, but now I don't really do those. I just do makeup. And I've always done nail art, like intricate little nail art patterns and things like that. But
No,
now it's mostly
your nail
makeup.
art is incredible.
My nail art is okay. My skills have definitely left. They're still in 2014. What about you? What did you do before makeup?
My food love definitely came before makeup love. I started my food blog, ooh, January 2013, maybe. So I'd already been writing for a little over a year when I started poking around makeup. But before that, like I was in college, I was partying a lot and overloaded with homework and partying a lot. So I like really didn't have many hobbies in my late teens, early 20s. And then like once I started getting into food and cooking after I moved out of my parents' house, that's when I was like, oh, there's like things that I can do for fun that don't require like several hours of recovery the next day.
Gosh, or now, 3 days of recovery.
Yeah, I don't like that part. Being in your 30s is great, but cannot hang like I used to.
Can't hang.
Do you think that you have a healthy relationship with makeup spending and beauty spending?
I think I'm getting there. I mean, I definitely don't buy what I used to back then, where it was like, she has that, I have to get it. Everybody has it. I want to be a part of it. I definitely can look at things, appreciate them from afar, or like recognize that it just won't work for me. But I think I still spend too much time window shopping and researching just to not buy something. And then also I'll buy a lot of things on a whim, like you've seen.
I know about you.
I'll research something endlessly, and then just while I'm in the store, be like, you know what? Let me try that instead. And then like I'll just buy it. And next thing you know, I didn't buy the thing I've like lamented over for months. But I think I'm getting somewhere that I want to be with impulse shopping and overspending. I would say overspending, I do a lot less of, but impulse shopping, I'm still working on it. What about you?
I think I do want to add though that realization that you don't feel like you need to have whatever everybody else has. That's like the first step. That's definitely growth. Definitely healthier relationship with spending, particularly on makeup now. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but as I've gotten more comfortable with myself and more confident in who I am, I really love like my 30s. I love it. I feel like certain things I just don't really care if they're trendy. Like if it's not for me, I'm not doing it. And I'm happy with what I have. I do obsessively research things. So I'm not really doing a lot of impulse buys, but I also have a ton of makeup. And when I was going through Sephora and scrolling, 2017 was crazy. I was working full time. I was finishing up grad school and I was not paying student loans yet. So I just behaved like I really had a ton of disposable income. You know how much I love Melt Cosmetics, and I think like the bulk of what I own from them I bought in 2017.
Yeah.
I even actually a lot of the products that I still use now, my Hourglass bronzer I bought in 2017. So I do a ton of research. I will wait and like get the exact thing that I want, but I want a lot of things.
I respect that all the way.
So I'm sure compared to the average consumer, my makeup spending and skincare spending is crazy. I love a nice skincare purchase, but it's definitely a fraction of what I used to buy. And it's more about replacement or filling a gap in my collection and less that feeling of like, gotta catch them all.
Agreed. We have come a long way. Do you feel the industry has changed since you first discovered it? Has the consumerism ramped up? More brands, more opportunities? What is it like now versus then?
It has. I feel like it has changed so much, and we've talked about this a little bit on our own. But everything has exploded. Even when I was spending a ton, say 2017, I don't feel like there was as much new stuff coming out, and now I feel like that gotta catch them all feeling is coming from the brands and their releases. Yeah. Before it was like, well, influencers were like, oh my God, this is the greatest. And like, here's my favorites video and here's my tutorial. And you have to have every product. But now it's like companies pumping out so much product. And even like casual makeup users now have multiple palettes.
That is such a good point that it's the brands driving this now, because you're right. Back in like 2014, 15, it was Jaclyn Hill saying, I love the Naked palette. It wasn't Urban Decay going, you need this new naked palette. They just had a naked palette, and influencers told us to buy it, and we said, okay. But
And
now it's ColourPop saying, like, if you don't buy this new release, like, you're just going to be left behind and not part of something.
was Urban Decay the first to like really have the multiple palettes in a collection? Like, because they did the Naked palette and everybody lost their minds, and then 2 and 3, and now there's Naked Heat and Naked Cherry and Naked Basics. And
these aren't even naked palettes anymore. They're just palettes. Just call them palettes.
But I think they the first that did like the vault, where it was like $300 to buy everything. So I do feel like the brands and the brand owners are really driving that, like, you got to have everything or you're like out of touch, rather than I want to keep up with what other cool people are doing.
Exactly. And I think makeup, since we started falling in love with it, has become much more of a community, and brands are just taking advantage of that, where they realize everyone wants to be part of it. It's like, we want to be a part of the community. We want to hang out with the influencers. We want to feel like they're our friends. The brands are our friends. And I think that they've discovered that, and they're using it to their advantage.
Absolutely. But I think like influencers have grown with it too. I think it used to feel much more casual. Like when they were first getting big, beauty YouTubers like sitting on their bedroom floor and holding up their hand behind the product, so like the camera would focus. And now, and now they're like a proper ad.
No, they are a full-blown production at this point. The lighting, the editing, just the quality control. It would be wild to see someone rise to like influencer stardom sitting on their bedroom floor with like a MacBook.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. Which is so funny because there's so many products coming out now and everything's such a big production. But I feel like a lot of the things coming out are not super impressive anymore. Like,
it's all been done.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot to fill any gaps in my collection at this point. Like, every time something comes out and it's like, oh, it's a new highlighter. It's like, nah, I have my highlighter. Or like, oh, it's a new palette. It's like, well, is it going to, glow in the dark? What's it going to do?
I'm looking at my collection right now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have 6 highlighters as singles and 2 highlighting palettes.
Yikes.
Like, I'm not buying new highlighters anymore, guys. Come up with something else.
Right, dude, something crazy. Wow us. Let's end on a high note. Do you have any products that you still use now that you used then? And are they the exact same product, like the physical product, like you bought this in 2014 and you still use it? I will not judge you.
I don't think I have anything from 2014, but a couple of my favorite liquid lipsticks, going through my like Sephora history, I realized I had purchased, like, we're coming up on 3 years. I'm sure that some people are going to freak out and say it's a hygiene thing, but like, they perform the same. They don't smell. The texture hasn't changed. Other than mascara, I don't really like rush to throw anything out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things, I also am lucky in that I have a younger sister, and her friends, a lot of them also like makeup. So when I've outgrown things, I just either destash them to my sister or sell them to her or her friends. There isn't anything that I got rid of because I was like, oh, this is objectively a bad product. My tastes have just changed. I will say, when I was like first, maybe like high school even, exploring makeup, I bought the Too Faced Snow Bunny bronzer. And I think my first ownership of it was actually in like a little cardboard palette that had 3 different bronzers. For those that are listening and not watching, I'm quite fair-skinned. Somebody who doesn't know anything about makeup does not need bronzer. I would put Snow Bunny literally like over my whole face. It was blush, highlight, bronzer, eyeshadow. I would like put it on the tip of my nose, everywhere. I bought the full size probably 3 times after I finished it in that thing. And I would still own it if it didn't get discontinued a couple years ago.
Okay.
What about you?
I don't think I have much of anything that I still use that I bought back then. The only product that has like maintained its spot in my collection is the Wet n Wild eye primer, which back then was the Fergie one, because I have incredibly oily eyelids. And like, I actually didn't understand how people wore eyeshadow before primers, because like, when I used to do my Victoria's Secret, like throw black on, it would crease in like an hour. And I was like, well, I guess that's just what it is.
That's just eyeshadow.
But that's just eyeshadow, sucks. But ever since I started using that, it's just been like a world of a difference. And I still buy that. Like I'm running out, I'll buy another. As for products that are really old, my Lime Crime palettes, I ended up buying them. And they are from 2015, I think. But they still work. So
powder, like sanitize it occasionally. But
yeah,
really,
sure.
like if the texture hasn't changed, if it doesn't smell, if it performs the same, just, be smart about it. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how makeup has changed with us and how we've changed in our consumption of it. And also it's just like a more generally accepted hobby now.
It is. It's not that it wasn't, I don't think it was like a full-blown hobby back then. I think it was either a career or something you did as like a necessity before you went somewhere.
Like as an obligation almost.
Yeah, not a necessity, do what you want. But like, I'm going out tonight, I'm going to wear makeup. Not like I'm staying in tonight, I'm going to do makeup.
Yeah. I like that has become more acceptable. And I think makeup for a lot of people is also really accessible. We didn't really talk about this earlier, but one of the things that like drew me into makeup is I have some chronic health issues and I wasn't always able to stand all day and cook in the kitchen. So makeup is something you can do sitting down. And I think it's a lot more accessible to a lot more people. Particularly now it's, nobody cares as much what gender or sex you are using makeup. Like it's for everyone. So I think that's all we have time for today. But don't forget to check out our website at beautybirdspodcast.com, and we'll link all of our social media accounts there, and check back for another new episode in 2 weeks.
Hell yeah. And if you want to tell us how you got into makeup, we would love to hear it because makeup is something that we deeply enjoy hearing about. So if you visit our website, feel free to comment down below the episode post and tell us all about it.
Or feel free to tweet at us at beautybirdspod.
Oh, hell yeah. All right. Well, until next time.
All right. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.